Bliss is not actually an emotion. It's actually a state of being.
The way I control my internal environment, ironically, is the way that I treat people in my external environment.
Bliss is a state of transcendence and oneness. When you have the overall knowing of why you're here, why you were born, what your mission and purpose is, or the meaning of your life, that transcends emotion. And that's why I want you to preserve it. Welcome back to the show. So you're going to see a change in the show between now and the end of the year. You know, it's been no secret that I've had a few health issues the last couple of years. Heck, I haven't even posted on social media in a few years. But we've been coming strong with 3 podcasts a week, even during that time. Well, between now and the end of the year, I'm going to scale it down a little bit, but give more value. So what I'm going to do is I've created a masterclass that's going to come out on Tuesdays, and you'll still get your Saturday episodes. We're going to take a pause on Thursdays. But every Tuesday, you're going to get a masterclass from me that I've created to help you finish 2025 strong and go into 2026 and make it the best year of your life. I'm calling this masterclass Max Out Your Mind, Faith, Focus, and Fire, Mastering Your Internal World so you can navigate your external world. It's going to come out every single Tuesday. I think you're going to love it. God bless you. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. So I want to start out today by telling you what we're going to talk about, which is we're going to talk about extending grace and kindness to people, but actually doing it during difficult times, during stressful situations, and why it matters that you do it. And I'm going to tell you 2 stories from my life that both happened very recently that I thought I have to teach this lesson today because it taught me one. And so the first one happened, I did a post about this a few weeks ago and it went pretty viral. So I'm driving down the road, and I don't know if you ever had this happen, but just someone's messing with you next to you, right? And this person was trying to agitate me, and they'd cut me off, and then, then they went around me and were behind me and kind of riding my bumper, and then they were yelling, then they wanted to race me, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, I'm not that dude, I'm a grown man, I'm not going to race you, right? But they were trying to agitate me, and they didn't. I didn't get upset. I thought, what a huge win. Like, I kept my emotions the way I wanted them. I stayed emotionally under control. I stayed poised. When me, maybe 5 years ago, certainly 10 or 15 years ago, you know how you'd be. You start yelling back at them, you get agitated, you get anxious, you get angry. And I was allowing outside stimulus to affect my internal emotions. And so I thought, what a gigantic win. Like, this was awesome. I wasn't upset. I waved at them. I smiled. And you know what else I found out? When someone's trying to get under your skin, trying to get you negative, trying to get you angry, trying to get you distracted, right? Trying to get you to perform in a way that's not reflective of your real character, right? When you don't give in to that, man, it frustrates them. It was such a bonus for me to see this person getting more and more frustrated that I was living with equanimity. In my book, The Power of One More, I have a whole chapter on equanimity, which basically means, my version of it is peace under duress, finding peace in a stressful situation and circumstance, and being able to live in that state, a state of equanimity. And I did. And I was very proud of myself because it's easy to do that when you're at a park or by a lake or on your boat or wherever, right? In a peaceful place, taking a walk with a dear friend, the simple things in life. But it's not so easy sometimes to do it when there's stress, when emotions get raised, when someone's intentionally trying to do harm to you. It was a better win than making a bunch of money, by winning an award, by how well this podcast does. I felt so great that I won because winning in life is an emotional game. The quality of your life is the quality of your emotions, right? You don't want a bunch of money. You want how you think a bunch of money is going to make you feel, if that's what you want. You don't even necessarily want a relationship. You want how you think that relationship will make you feel. You want to be super fit and jacked. You want how you think you will feel if you're super fit and jacked. So what we're all trying to find is an emotion, is a feeling. And what I find is you don't have to chase them. They're within you right now. And it only happens when you surrender that emotion to the outside circumstance that you lose, or to a person. You're going to have someone, you may even right now, who's antagonistic towards you, or is hating on you, or just they cut you off on the road, or they're at work and you're competing with them for a job and they're trying to undercut you, whatever it might be, right? Or if someone's rude to you in a restaurant, right? Or dismissive to you. It's very easy to allow what that outside stimulus does to infect your internal emotional thermostat level. And every time you stay in control of your emotions, you win. And that's a muscle you build. And I found that it's pretty difficult now to get me to change my emotions based on your behavior. It's hard to get me to change my emotions based on the conditions around me. Yet I lived probably 50 years of my life
where the conditions dictated my emotions. The treatment somebody gave me dictated my emotions, right? The circumstances around me dictated my emotions. The results dictated my emotions. And so you're probably nodding with me right now that you have a tendency to do that. And every time you don't, and you stay in control, and you stay kind, you stay graceful, you stay in a state of equanimity and peace, what ends up happening is you win, and you build a muscle that becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's what resilience is. That's what it is. That's what building something great in your life is all about, is doing it over and over and over again and developing the pattern of building the emotions we want. Really, we learn these negative emotional patterns as children, don't we? When something doesn't go our way, we start screaming and crying, right? Or we fall down and, we get really upset. Or someone does something to us at school and we come home very sad. So we start these patterns very young in our life and we never undo them. And we all have what I call like an emotional home. And what that means is that in your life, no matter what the circumstances are, most people have a pattern of emotions they're going to get back. So for some people, that pattern is they find every single day of their life, they find a way back to grace and peace and bliss and ecstasy and joy and passion. For other people, though, no matter what the circumstances are, they find a way to get their anger, to get their anxiety, to get their worry, to get their fear. And if emotions are the quality of our life, I was losing. I remember, I'll tell you a quick story. Many, many years ago, I was blessed that I was doing very well financially, finally, in my life. And I was building my first dream home. And the contractor had messed something up that day, and I had an appointment cancel, and another client of mine changed their mind. And then the house was under construction. I walked in. I was mad at the contractor. I walked in there angry and stressed and, And I looked, and there were a group of gentlemen who were working on my kitchen. They were all carpenters. They all happened to be from Mexico. And I watched them. And I'm standing in my mansion, okay, that was being built, angry and frustrated and frankly scared. Anger is usually the other side of the coin is fear. Scared. All the emotions I didn't want, I'm experiencing in my body. That was my life experience at that moment. Who cared that I had money or a mansion or those things? Because it wasn't giving me those emotions then that I thought it was going to give me. And I was watching these men in my kitchen. And all of them, they had their mariachi music on. Most of these men were not making a lot of money, by the way. They had left their families in Mexico, and most of them were working here to send money back home to their family. I later got to know many of them pretty well because they were there for a long time, and I befriended most of them. But as I watched them, they were singing and dancing and enjoying their time and laughing and cracking jokes with another, meanwhile doing work that they were great at, that was meaningful, that was beautiful. And in that moment, if you said, who's winning the game of life? The guy with the mansion or the men who were building it for him? And in that moment, they were winning the life game because they were doing work that mattered to them, that they were passionate about. They were laughing. They were joyous. They were in a blissful state. They had a state of equanimity and joy and passion and focus about what they were doing. And meanwhile, the rich guy with the mansion over there, he was in a state of anger and fear and frustration and worry and angst. So if the quality of our emotions are the quality of our life, I remember clearly in that moment watching these men, there were 6 of them, in this kitchen that was being built, thinking, they're winning the game of life right now. I'm losing it. Yet the outside world would probably say, the guy with the mansion's winning. That's not winning. Winning is, are you in control of the emotions that you want? And somehow we get our emotional home. You'd ask yourself, what's your emotional home currently? Like over the last 6 months, what's the primary emotion you feel every day? Is it fear? Is it frustration? Is it anger? Is it worry? Is it depression? Is it frustration? Is it just sort of blah? Or are you getting a whole bunch of peace and a whole bunch of bliss and a whole bunch of happiness and joy and ecstasy? Or not? Are you doing work that means something to you and you feel a sense of contribution from it and growth from it? Or do you not? And so for me, I had to evaluate that. And so between the ride in the car that I had that day and that man in the mansion, I've grown a lot. And so I'm proof today that you can do it because it's a pattern that you build. And then the other thing is, for me, the pathway to feeling these emotions is my ability to extend grace and kindness to other human beings. We're in a world today where we're so divided and at each other's throats, it seems, and we all believe we're separate. There's separate people. You're this, I'm that. You believe that, I believe this. You're from there, I'm from here. All these different things in life, the different religious conflicts that we have, the wars that we're in, but even just the day-to-day way we treat one another, there's not enough kindness. And so my My call to you today, my plea to you today is to begin to live a life where even more, even if you're doing it, to extend more grace and kindness to people in your everyday life. And then the measure of it also is, can you do it when they don't extend it to you? See, that guy in the car that day wasn't extending me any of those things, but I extended grace and kindness back to him. See, it's easy to be kind and gentle and beautiful with people when they're doing that for you. But what happens when they're not? Because that tells us who you really are, doesn't it? It tells me who I really am. Can I extend kindness and grace to you when you're not behaving in a way that's worthy of it? When you're antagonistic towards me? You know, I'm in a little bit of a business thing right now where there's some strife in one of my businesses and everyone's being so horrible to one another. And it's my ability to not reciprocate, not reduce myself to that level and extend them grace. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what problems they have. Give them kindness and grace when really they're not even earning it right now. But I'm worth giving it to them because it makes me feel better about me when I give somebody that grace. I'll give you an example. Last story. Several weeks ago, I was out to dinner with my family. It was a pretty nice restaurant, not crazy nice, but pretty nice. And there was a family at the table right next to us. And right when we walked in, I could hear this family in the lobby. And the kids were real rowdy. You can picture it. You've been somewhere like this. Not just a little rowdy. I'm talking about like screaming and yelling and, running around the table during the meal. It was a decent restaurant, right? It was distracting to other people in the restaurant. And I remember we sat next to them. You can imagine, probably like I was like, oh, man, I just wanted to have a nice, beautiful meal with my family. And now I'm going to deal with this all night. And I did deal with it. These kids were misbehaving pretty heavy. And, there's that part of you when you look at the parents, you're like, discipline your kids. I start judging them. I would never let my kids act out like that. Have your kids sit down. Tell them to be quiet. Have them put the napkin on their lap. Like, they're yelling at each other. This is a restaurant. There's decorum here. There's manners. And so I found myself not only tending towards frustration with the noise level and the kids, but also judging the parents. Judgment and frustration. And I'm not kidding you because I know I do this for a living. I went, are these the emotions I want to experience during this meal? Is this what I'm going to do at dinner? I get this 2-hour dinner too. So I'm going to choose to be judgmental, angry, frustrated, and totally distracted with their table instead of present with these people that I love. Can I, in this moment, find a way to extend grace and kindness to that family? And I did. I made this shift, which surprised my own family, frankly, I think. And I was totally present with my family and laughing and blissful as this chaos was going on. Now, that's a test for your emotional makeup, right? And so they ended up leaving about 3/4 of the way through our meal. And I remember literally going, I could see other people in the restaurant like, they're gone. And I had a lot of judgment that I could have had.
Anyway, a few days later, something incredible happened. I was at the golf course and I was hitting some balls on the driving range. And the man next to me, I looked up and it was the server from 2 nights before at the restaurant. And he walks over and says, Mr. Mylett, thank you for such a great experience. You made me feel so good about myself.
I'm sorry for the noise level at that table over there. And I go, yeah, it was. And he says, yeah, they came back from the funeral of their grandmother. And I went, what? Yeah, they had just returned from the grandchildren's. Their grandmother passed away. And so they had come back from the funeral to have dinner. And the kids were pretty wound up. And the wife was very, very sad. It was her mom. And the son and the wife had met when they were young. So she was like his mother too. And I went, oh, wow. And I went, The old me, I would have judged that family. I would have spent my entire meal obsessed with their inability to parent their kids and the noise and how crazy it was. Yet I was so grateful. And by the way, I've made this mistake 100 times. So I'm just telling you the one time I've done it. I did extend grace to them and kindness because you never know what someone's going through. You never know what battle someone's fighting. You never know what burden they're carrying. You don't know what someone had just recently done to them. You don't know what they're acting out of. You don't know what pain they're acting out of or stress they're acting out of or loss, in this case, they're acting out of. And so remember that when you go to judge. Remember that when you go to react, that you don't know what that person's carrying. And your ability to be a superhuman has nothing to do with your ability to lift a bunch of weights or build muscles or make millions and millions of dollars. Superhuman is a person who treats other humans in a superhuman way, even when they don't appear to be worthy of it or deserve it. That's when you've done something superhuman in your life. So I wanted to challenge you today to really reflect on where can you be more kind? What would our world look like if everybody just took a moment and gave their other fellow human beings, their brothers and sisters, just a little bit more grace, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more kindness, and went out of their way to express that to somebody? And what you're going to find is that when you give someone that gift, you're giving it to you, because now your emotional home becomes equanimity. It becomes peaceful. It becomes blissful. So what I'm saying to you is the way I control my internal environment, ironically, is the way that I treat people in my external environment. Not the external environment dictating it to me. I dictate it to the external environment. And so I just ask you, maybe the next time you walk by a stranger, just say a quick prayer for them. Peace be with you. I wish you well. I wish you wealth. I wish you health. Just quiet prayers for people, quiet thoughts, quiet kindness, quiet gift of grace. And I think our world will be a whole lot better, but your internal world will be better.
So many of us right now in our lives are experiencing a whole set of emotions, whether it be worry, angst, anger, fear, frustration, could even be happiness, could even be a little bit of joy. But what I would wish for you is bliss, because bliss is not actually an emotion. It's actually a state of being. And it's not contingent on external stuff in order to feel it, in order to experience, in order to live in it. So I'm known for using the word bliss, and people will ask me all the time, Ed, is happiness and bliss, are they the same thing? And they're really not, because happiness in most cases is a temporary state, and it's based on external circumstances. In other words, when things line up, I can give myself the gift of feeling this emotion of happiness. For most people, that's true, and it's fleeting. The other thing, not to get too detailed today, or too deep, but happiness and most other emotions have a duality to them, meaning there's an opposite. So happy, sad, right? Angry, peace, whatever that might be. And so most emotions, bondage, freedom, most of these emotions have a duality to them, and they're temporary. Whereas bliss, if you can protect it, is just a state of being. And when you're in a blissful state, you may feel other emotions, but the overriding condition of your life is that of blissfulness. But so many of us aren't developing patterns and systems and structures in our life, thoughts that preserve it, that protect our bliss. And I want to challenge you to begin to do more of that. You're allowing too many things in your life. Listen, if somebody wants to push you away in your life, let them push you away and let them find you never again. You can't have people in your life that are stealing or robbing you from the potential to have bliss in your life. Here's what bliss really is. I wrote this down. I said it's a state of quiet, of inner joy, of perfect happiness. This is actually a definition. Bliss is a state of transcendence and oneness. Experiencing a state of bliss ultimately is discovering the purpose and meaning to your life. And once you understand the purpose and the meaning of your life, now you are in the experience of the state of bliss. That doesn't mean you won't feel other emotions, but when you have the overall knowing of why you're here, why you were born, what your mission and purpose is, or the meaning of your life, that transcends emotion. And that's why I want you to preserve it. And so I want you to begin to feed yourselves the things that give you bliss in your life. That might be certain people in your life. It might be your scriptures. It might be getting outside. It might be your meditation or your prayer or your working out. All these are things to preserve your bliss. On the other side of that, though, you got to move out of this world of duality where you just feel emotions based on what the external conditions are of your life. And so many of us, we don't preserve our bliss. We're not conscious of it. For me, this is the year of preserving my bliss because I deserve it. I've allowed, if I'm being transparent with you, I've allowed too many people in my life who steal my bliss. And, I'm constantly trying to pick them up, or they're constantly angry or constantly frustrated, constantly in a relationship issue. And they drain me. Do you relate to that? Or there's this person that's antagonistic to me, or there's this thought or behavior that you have in your own life that robs you of your bliss. And here's the thing in my life. If you don't want to contribute to my bliss, if you don't want to help me stay in this state of blissfulness, you can't stay in my life anymore. But when you get to my age, you've had a lot of experience in your life. I've seen a lot of things, and I've fallen into patterns. See, as human beings, we're really a series of patterns, aren't we? And thoughts. And also the same people run the same patterns in our lives. You don't become aware of those patterns. They rob you of your ability to live in bliss. If you don't be aware of what are the things. So what I did recently that I would recommend you do is I wrote down a list of the things that steal my bliss, that take me out of that state of being. I wrote them down. I wrote down the names of the people. See, some people only do it once in a while, but they do it. So I put them on the list. That doesn't mean they're going to get eliminated necessarily if they do it once in a while. But I identified these people have a tendency to steal my bliss. Ed, what thoughts steal your bliss? These things. What behaviors? These things. What tasks? These things. What parts of me steal my bliss? I don't mind having anger. I don't mind having worry and fear and frustration. Those are emotions, as long as I'm still in a state of blissfulness. That's my overriding. It doesn't take me from my purpose or my calling or my mission or me remembering why I was born and I'm here. But when those things begin to impede on that and you infringe on my blissfulness, on my life, on my way of being, I got to address it. It's taken me 52 years to figure that out. Let me save most of you time. And if you're a little bit older than me, let's just do it together. Then I made a list of what feeds my bliss. What gives me more bliss? There are things that surprised me that came on that list. This may seem really random. It may sound corny, but just getting outdoors with my shoes off. Is that weird? Gives me more bliss, feeds that state. For me, being near water. I know it's crazy. Music. I need more music in my life. Frankly, I'm only listening to a couple podcasts now. Stay listening to mine. I'm listening to more music. In my case, recently more worship music. I just like the music. I like the words. It puts me in a beautiful state. Moving my body more gave me more bliss. Believe it or not, more yoga, which I just started this year, more stretching, more quiet and alone time gives me more bliss. Really working out to exertion gives me more bliss. For me, reading gives me more bliss, particularly scriptures, but not just scriptures for me. Reading good work gives me more bliss. You know what I like? I like a great movie. I'm going to give myself the gift of watching a little bit more really great movies. It gives me bliss. You know what gives me bliss? Sleep. Believe it or not, I love to sleep. And I'm going to give myself the gift of a little bit more sleep. I love looking at really like beautiful things, beautiful scenery. I love taking in small stuff. It gives me bliss. I like goal setting and future casting. What I call it possibility projecting in my life. I love that feeling of what could my life look like? What could this month look like? What could it be in 2 years, 5 years? I only do that a few times a year. I'm going to give myself the gift of doing that way more regularly because it brings me joy. More importantly, it delivers me to stay in this state of bliss. So I've made a list of the things that take from me, and there's more that take from me. And then I've made a list of the things. I'll give you one big one for me that steals my bliss. I'm just going to share this with you. Social media. In particular, when I see things where human beings are harming one another, violence in the streets. Doesn't mean I want to be my back to it and not be aware, because I want to be able to contribute to it. I feel like some of my work can help reduce or eliminate it. So believe me, I'm aware of it. But feeding that to me, for me, all the political discourse in the country, I find that when I watch any political television that I lose my bliss. Whether it's even stuff I agree with or disagree with, it's become toxic for me. So I can't eliminate it because I need to know what's going on in the world, but I'm reducing it by about 85%. I'm reducing my social media time by about 85%. A big one for me is the politics stuff, because it's not necessarily what each of them are doing. It's the way we treat each other because of it and over it. It's some of the things I've learned about how the world's working that just robs me of my bliss. Let me be very clear. I want to know what's going on. I want to be informed, but I don't need to bathe in it. There's a difference between sipping from the water and making sure that I'm aware of what's happening and I'm hydrated with it, and drowning and bathing in it all the time. You know exactly what I mean. And so I've made this list because I want to live in bliss. I was born to live in bliss, and so were you. Then I took a look at, what do I do in the lives of other people? Am I bringing bliss to the lives of other people? And when I'm at my best, what am I doing? And so you'll have to know this. For me, I've just really drawn some strong lines. If you take my bliss away, you're probably not going to be around me. That's it. And I'll give you a couple warnings, but if you keep doing it, it's going to be game over. That's a hard way to live life. It's a difficult thing to decide, but it is. And here's how I'll reduce it. I'll reduce you by 85%. I won't cut you out of my life completely unless that's all you do. Some of you have someone that's all they do, they're gone. But everything's going to get reduced by 85%. Social media, reduced by 85%. Political stuff, 85%. Person who steals my bliss, 85%. Because I'm not going to eliminate all of it, because I think if you just had the perfect environment around you all the time, I don't know that that's a real test of whether you're truly blissful. Life is supposed to have problems and stressors and anxieties and things we overcome, because those are the things that cause us to grow. But I've become somebody, like many of you have, where I live in that world 85% of the time. And the other thing I do that delivers tremendous bliss to me, maybe the biggest one, is when I'm in the service of other people, when I'm loving and serving and contributing to other people. You put me on a stage for an hour when I'm speaking, whether there's 30 people in the room or 60,000 people, I'm blissful because I'm making a difference. At least my intentions are to make a difference. And so I love doing that. I love doing what I'm doing right now with you. I feel like I'm making a difference. I love meeting human beings and changing their state and finding their giftedness and pointing that out to them. I feel bliss when I help other people. But I have to tell you, there's a point where you give and give and give and give so much that you forget to care for yourself. And a lot of you are at that point where you do love your job. You're a nurse or a doctor or you're an entrepreneur and you love what you do, almost to the point of your own detriment, right? So there's a point where even that's too much, where it's too much. And you need to begin to care for yourself. Those of you that are moms or dads, your whole world is your family, right? And you're just giving and giving and giving. You're not getting around to your own bliss. And so you've got to make that list of the things that do that for you. So remember this, bliss is a state of quiet, inner joy, and of perfect happiness, a state of transcendentness and oneness. Experiencing the state of bliss is ultimately discovering the purpose and meaning to your life. Ready? Reach a state of perfect happiness in your life, or bliss, typically so that you become oblivious of everything else. You become blissed out. You're going to have different emotions. I think you should have a goal of more of a certain emotion, but I don't think there's necessarily good or bad emotions because of the duality. If you can't experience fear, then you're really not going to know the full benefit of freedom. If you haven't experienced a high level of sadness and despair, you won't be able to have the high degrees of happiness and joy, right? If you haven't been without peace in your life at some point, maybe the appreciation for it won't exist. I think it's okay to have some anxieties and worries from time to time, not too many because that's like a sin, right? But I think it's okay to have a few of them. And it's naive to think that you wouldn't, because then the absence of those things when you're at peace and focused is beautiful. I think it's okay to feel lost once in a while in life where you don't know where you're going, because then when you do have a sense of direction, you feel even more stable and strong and relentless and focused. So I don't think there are good or bad emotions, but there's only one state of being, and bliss is that for me. Bliss is what I think of when someone passes away and their soul goes to heaven. For me, that feels like a state of bliss. It feels like a state of bliss. To me, heaven is bliss. It's a transcendence of the environment. And I want that for you. And so I want you to begin to just today ask yourself this: who are the people that bring me the most bliss into my life? Who are the people that rob me of it? What are the things I do that bring me the most bliss? What are the things that take it from me? Right? What are the thoughts I have that rob me of bliss? What are the thoughts I have that bring me bliss? And I listen to you for a bunch of simple ones for me. Isn't that crazy to think that like goal setting and vision casting and possibility projecting brings me bliss? But it does. This difference between giving myself a little bit more music in my life and a little bit less talk in my life. Oddly, a little bit more silence alone brings me tremendous bliss than a bunch of noise. One thing I've realized about myself is that, like, I don't like noisy environments. Crazy, Ed, you speak to thousands and thousands of people. But when I'm in a noisy environment, my bliss is reduced tremendously. Even in a restaurant, I'll give you, it drives friends of mine crazy, but I don't like noisy restaurants. I don't like it. I think it's probably because, in all candor, I grew up in a very noisy home when my dad was on one of his things and yelling. So I don't like noise. I've never liked noise. Maybe some of you can relate to that. I don't like noise when I eat. I don't like noise around me. I'm sure that's some sort of pattern and conditioning. So I try to avoid as many noisy and crowded environments as I can. And I like quiet. It brings me bliss. That's a subtle distinction, but it's important because you go, well, yeah, that's obvious. Okay. So are you intentional about making sure you get more quiet? Are you intentional about avoiding those things that take your bliss away? If I'm going to go all the way out to eat a meal, I'd like to be in a blissful state when I eat it. Number one, I want to enjoy it and have joy and happiness and laughter during that meal. I also want to digest my food well and enjoy it. And I know even if the food's better in a noisy restaurant, I'd enjoy a more quiet place. This is just me. I'm not saying this is for you. I'd enjoy a more quiet. Some people say, I'm the opposite, man. The more people that are around, the more it's buzzing, the more I feel at home and blissful. I'm the life of the party, or I like being in the party. I like being in the mix. I like the energy. Great. That's just not me. It's to know oneself, right? I'm not saying what my things are. I'm just telling you, I finally in my life have identified what those things are. And today's show is about you identifying what they are for you. And if someone's in your life robbing you of your bliss, man, there's nothing worth keeping them around. If they do it all the time, they're gone. If they do it some of the time, reduce it by 85%. Just get back to their text a little later. This sounds nuts, but like you train people how you're going to communicate, right? And so in my life, if it's one of these bliss stealers, one of the things I've done is they don't hear from me for a day or two. Whereas I used to reply right away, I'm going to solve their problem. I'm going to get right in. Now I'm sucked into their vortex of all this crap. No, I'm going to wait. I'm going to get my quiet time. I'm going to listen to music. I'm going to work out. I'm going to nurture myself. 15%, I'll get into their world and help them. Then bam, back to what I need to be doing to protect my bliss. You were born to experience bliss. I have another podcast called Blissful Dissatisfaction that you may want to take a look at or listen to, because I think that can show you how you can be simultaneously driven and dissatisfied and still live in a state of bliss. Because there's a difference between dissatisfaction, right, and unhappiness. There's a total difference. And I talk about that. So for today, protect your bliss, preserve your bliss. I know it'll go a long way for so many of you. I can feel, I hope, you sharing this with someone who needs to hear it today. Preserve your bliss. Max out your life. God bless you.